Hi, I'm Happy and I'm the Crafty Chemist. This is a video showing what pages in my coloring books I finished in July 2025 and some yarn that I finished in July 2025 because I spin yarn during the Tour de France. So I'm going to start with the coloring pages and we'll come back to the yarn. First up, I want to mention that I did a couple of pages in this circle mosaics book. It's animals and it's all just dots. And the first one I did in here, and I just kind of do these while I'm watching TV, and I got some acrylic markers to do it with, is a cockatiel. And the pictures are not the best because it's kind of hard. They're very like pixelated, and I think sometimes the backgrounds get a little distracting. Oh, and I just now saw one that I forgot there. Oh well. I'll pull those markers back out in a little bit. So this cockatiel, I did that, and then I did this one here, which I think looks like a capybara. I really am not sure. At first I thought it might be a hamster, and then I see the feet and the darker nose, so I think it might be a capybara. The first one I ever did was this one here, which I think is a red panda, and then this one's some sort of like vulture, maybe hawk. I really don't know. It's really hard to tell on them, but I've started another one, have no clue what this one is so far. So that was in Circle Mosaics. Next, I have here A Million Sea Creatures, which was a new to me book that I got because I focused on sharks and oceans last month, and I only did one page in here, and that was because it had a hammerhead shark here. I did this at a swim meet, and I used watercolors and colored pencils that I had with me. I haven't colored anything else in it yet, but I do like this one here because the little walrus is knitting, and knitting is something that I also love to do for crafting. So I added it to my Lulu Mayo collection, and I'm looking forward to doing some more in there in the future. I also finished a page in A Million Mermaids, which I actually need to go out and seal this. It was too hot to seal it for a little while, and then I didn't do it when it got cooler, so I need to go back outside and spray this down to seal it because I used oil pastels for the background. This is the page that contains all of the author and copyright information. And for this one, I used watercolor pencils. I used my Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle small little collection to get started on everything. And then I used some Graphitint type pencils in here and the oil pastels and then colored pencils over the top of that. So I need to, like I said, seal this one off so I can work on other things and not have it worry about getting it smeared on everything. That's the only one I did in here. Oh, and I did do it also because it had another little hammerhead shark. That was the most common shark type in Lulu Mayo's books. In Fantasy Animals by Hannah Carlson from Coloring Heaven, I did a horseshoe crab. Not horseshoe crab. I forget what kind of crabs these are. It's totally escaped my brain. I'll think about it. I had one of these crabs as a friend, and actually I had a couple of them, but for this one I wanted to play with acrylic paint washes, and so I did the whole surface in different acrylic paint washes. Between acrylic markers and acrylic pens and just regular acrylic paints that I have, I was able to do the whole background and cover the entire crab. Hermit crabs. They're hermit crabs. Oh my gosh. Started with an H. There we go. Hermit crabs. And then I did cover over it a little, color over it a little bit with some gel pens in a couple of places to like get some of the darker lines to be a little bit lighter. I used colored pencils on it and a little bit of glitter markers. Those are glitter markers, not glitter pens. So yeah, I actually really like it. I was trying to play around a lot to make things look a little bit more blended and try new techniques for getting the colors to blend together and look a little bit more like realistic, because I like how things look when they're realistic. So that's the second page I've done in here. I might do something more in it this month. I did the turtles a couple of months ago, so I did that in March. Next, I did 2 pages in Daydreams. They're actually right next to each other. And I also kind of think I want to seal these in as well. This is entirely based with watercolors and then colored over with colored pencils and some white gel pen to give the effects that I was looking for. I did this at the swim meet as well. It came out exactly as I was hoping it would, just how I imagined it, and I just don't want the watercolor to like rub off onto other pages, so I think I'll probably seal it. And then the seahorse page next to it, I was kind of working on them at the same time. So this has also got some watercolor and then also ink tints on it, colored pencil, gel pen, and acrylic pen. I have to admit that I don't really know what to do with bubbles in pictures. I think they're kind of a little odd, so I could get used to like coloring over it. But for this one, I was working with sort of drastic shading kinds of things and like shading effects. That's kind of what I've worked on a little bit in this book. I got it at the end of, no, I think I got it early 2025 or maybe in the end of 2024, but I was doing the same kind of thing here with just working on shading things where this side is blue and the other side is pink. And so over here I wanted the green watercolors to reflect into the shells and onto the other objects in the picture, including on the seahorses. I think that's, yeah, these are only the third and fourth pages that I've done in here. I do really love this book and I want to work some more in it. But those are 2 more pages done in there. That was Daydreams by Hannah Carlson. And then I worked on something in Rooms of Wonder by Joanna Basford. I haven't really done very much in this book, but one of the things I did do in 2023 was this page here where this heavy applied watercolor and graphite watercolors bled through the paper. And so I worked on covering that up. I just did this side of it. I know a lot of people do these as a 2-page, but I kind of felt it was a single page because there's really no connection between the 2 pages. And I covered up a lot of where the watercolor from the other side came through using gouache. And then I had a lot of experimenting going on there to make it look like light was coming from inside the aquariums with gouache and gel pens and rinsing out, like, you know, diluting out the gel pen. And then I also used water-based markers to give some of the shading in here, and you could see that in a number of places. Actually, most of the animals have both colored pencil and then the water-based markers, which I have Horseshoe water-based markers over the top of them. And yeah, that's how I got all the colors on here, I guess. I was using, there's a little bit of watercolor in here. I forgot about that. Like, this is watercolor here. But then I was coloring over it and especially wanted to try out different methods for making certain areas really dark with the water-based marker and then using a water brush and smoothing it out. So like the shading on the tanks here was kind of done that way. I can actually see where it may have rubbed off a little bit, but you know, it was all experimental. I was just trying things. This is all water-based marker over the top of the yellow on this fish that I colored here. So I was happy to be able to fix it. I also did some color pencil to add in shading around the tanks to like make it darker here in the corners and anywhere where the light wouldn't exactly hit it. And it took me a lot longer to just work on this. I had it sitting here on my desk for a while. So I know this is a favorite kind of book of people, and I've seen these things done a lot of different ways. So it's like there's tons of inspiration out there for it. But you can see how this page here, this is the kind of thing I was dealing with. And I've got some ideas for how to deal with it here if I ever do want to actually finish this page. This one is, you know, kind of wallpapery, and I don't know if I will or not. And then I guess I've colored that one, and this is the first one I did in here. So that's really all I've done in here. I tend to like to use my Joanna Basford books as experimenting because there's just so readily available. Earlier in July, I spent some time coloring on camera and chatting, and I thought, well, I'll just add that in here now so you can see a little bit of how I actually did this Rooms of Wonder page, and enjoy. Coloring is just something that I've done since I was a little tiny person. I still have some of those old coloring books hidden away in the attic somewhere. And I just wanted to make this video, and I'll probably do some clips of things with some of the other things that I do, and I'll try to put out a few of these every once in a while. It's summer right now, of course, in the United States where I live. So what I'm actually doing right now is a little bit of the last shading that I plan to do on this page that I'm fixing from cover it up. And so I've used gouache and watercolor, and I just want to get some of the darker shading in here on this so that I can get this off of my table and show other things for in this video. So I'll probably just let this run for a little while and do some clips and edit things out when I get to later points. It's not, I wouldn't recommend necessarily coloring over gouache. I can't ever get it to be nice and smooth like I'd like. I also didn't really get a smooth background on, like with the gouache. You can see that it's pretty patchy. Maybe it doesn't show up on camera quite as well, which is fine. I'm just using Stardoy Gold. You can't see it on here, but there's a Stardoy Gold pencil. And I actually like these pencils quite a bit. I use them a lot. You don't get quite the depth of color that I'd always like, so I a lot of times mix them with paints or with other colored pencils to get that. In this case I did it with gouache, and I will show you that I also did it with water-based markers. I have some Horseshoe water-based markers. So like I've given away a bunch of things recently, and like when I go to the Fiber Guild meetings, I put out, there's a free table there, and I just like de-stash as much of my craft stuff as I can so that I am just downsizing things. I've done pretty much every craft you could think of through the years, and people are like, are you really, is this really free? Like the amount of stuff I put out? And I'm like, yeah, it's on the free table and I don't want it anymore. You know, even some of the big like die cutting machines and stuff like that, I'm just like, I'm never going to use this again, so it's going. And I feel a lot lighter after I do that. So I've been kind of getting to that point with other supplies. I have not bought any new fiber this year. No yarn, no fiber for spinning, and I want to try to keep it that way. I'll show you a yarn in a minute that I've been working on for the Tour de Fleece, and I blended 2 different kinds of fibers together, and I'm going to run out of one of them, and I contacted the person who dyed it, and I was like, do you have any more of this? And she was at SSK, which is a like a, I don't know, fiber spinning convention. There's classes, there's a vendor area, you know. So she was vending, and she said, I don't, but when I get back, I can dye some. And then I was like, wait a minute, I have dye, it's cotton, I have undyed cotton, I know how to do all this. Other than getting it exactly the same kind of colors that she used, which since I'm blending it, it won't really matter. And I'm making multiple different blends that will give me some different color combinations, then, you know. I don't like how this looks. Let me try to get it smoothed out a little bit more. Okay. I don't even know if you can tell exactly what I did there, but that's done. And so it being exactly the same color match isn't going to be super important or anything. Okay, so I need to either, there we go. Now you can see that. All right, so then the last thing I want to do here, which, all right, I have this 5-0 round, it's just Princeton art brush that I'm going to use here. And I'm probably just going to use my dirty, I was doing some acrylic painting, so my dirty water here. And I want to darken up the edge of the little aquariums down here. I've done this already over here. And so all I'm going to do is use this is a Horseshoe fine liner brush. And I'm just going to go around the edge of this a little bit, and then use the little fine brush with a teensy bit of water on it to like smooth that out and like make it more of a gradient out here. And that just sort of will brighten up the edge of this and make it like crisper and look like it's more water density there, which is what I want it to do, because I want to kind of like think of this as bulging out here. The only thing with doing this is that sometimes it gets clogs up the tip of the fine tip of the brush, or of the marker, and you have to like get it going again. There's gouache and watercolor and colored pencil on here already, and so just I have discovered with the Starjoy Gold that they are a little bit water soluble, and so that actually isn't necessarily a bad thing. It sort of helps to blend the two pigment sources together, I guess. Come over here and do the top. This is basically the last thing I need to do on this page, and then it'll be done. Since it is World Watercolor Month, I have been trying to use watercolor medium on pretty much everything, or turn things into watercolor. So like this water-based marker, now I've made it into watercolor. If I had a bigger area, I would use the brush tip because it doesn't get clogged as easily, but these are little tiny areas. So I want only a fine dark line there at the edge. It kind of helps to not push down really hard as I do it, because if I push down really hard, then it picks up more of the colored pencil and watercolor off of the paper. Okay, so I get that whole circle. I can put this cap back on here. Bring my brush out. And as I do it, even if there's a fish part close by, I even go over that because the fish are in the water. They're not like in front of the water. So a little bit of shading on the fishies is good. I mean, I'm not any kind of expert or anything, but I really just enjoy it, and I enjoy sharing what I've been working on and watching everybody else's videos where they share what they have been working on. So I'm gonna just give that a little bit more of a edge. I don't think it's gonna matter there, but just smooth that out a little. All right, so I'm gonna call this one done. So that's all I colored in the month of July. If you don't care about the other stuff, then, you know, it's good. You can, you know, thanks for watching and you can log off. But last month was Tour de France, and during Tour de France, we spin yarn. So this is one of the yarns that I spun. This one, I blended a bunch of different wools and braids of wool that I had around, including, one that had some flax in it. So there's flax in here, as well as I added some flax in that was dyed blue, and I used some natural colored and blue dyed fleeces that I had and added in some silk. And this is going to be part of a 5 skein set. I have 3 other skeins that are this way, and then I have one that I got to finish up that is going to be a little bit smaller, but it should be enough that I'm going to make a cardigan out of it. It's not particularly the softest, and that's okay. It's not just like super rough either, but it's, most of this stuff wasn't down kind of wool, and so it's not super soft, but it is squishy, and I really like the yarn, and I like how it's all spun up. So I have that. Then I also did this skein here, which is 100% cotton. The light blue cotton in here was ginned cotton that had been dyed by hip strings. And then the other colors in there, the darker colors and the pinky colors, are also from hip strings, but they were from cotton roving that had been dyed as well. I spun this on my charka, and I still have a bunch more to spin, so I should be able to make some sort of a cotton garment out of it when I'm done. This is a very lightweight yarn, so this is light fingering. It's heavier than a lace weight, so I should make a nice and airy sort of cotton fabric when I have it all spun up. This is 100% cashmere. I spun this on my electric eel wheel, and it is also sort of a light fingering weight. I think what I'm going to do with it is make some cuffs. So just a thing that would go underneath like long sleeves or a jacket that would come up here, and then I want to have a frilly part here. I'm going to design that myself, and you know, I'd have some matching cuffs. I really like the color. You can see that these guys were all like in the blue family. This color was called Espresso, and it came, the original braid of the fiber came from Inglenook Fibers. They dyed it into that colorway, but to me it looks like a cloudy blue, so I called it like Clouds in My Coffee. And then I spun something not blue, and this is also cotton, but it is blended with baby yak. And so there's brown in here that is blended with the multicolored cotton, which was like oranges and pinks. And I spun this. This is toward the fingering weight side. This is a little bit heavier. It has the feel kind of cotton, but also of yak. Hi, this is Past Me. I recorded this earlier in July, and I'm going to explain my process for making this cotton yak yarn. What I do is card them into these things called ponies, and This is the cotton that I've been using that I know I can just re-dye myself, or something very similar, because I'm pretty sure I have orange and pink, and that'll get me at least most of the way there. And so it comes braided up like this. This is called sliver, and it's like doubled over, and I just pull off little bits, and I actually weigh everything that I pull off. And then this is a ball of yak, but I was also using some baby yak here that is brown. That's what was in this original skein with the cotton. And now these ponies are made with this dyed yak. And this is a fingering weight yarn. It feels like and acts like cotton a little bit, but it's not the same as a cotton skein. I have spun quite a bit of cotton. It's one of my things that I really like to spin, but I haven't actually made anything with any cotton. So I have a couple of skeins of cotton that I've spun. So you can see a difference between the cotton and the cotton with the yak in it. This one was spun probably on a charka, and it's, I don't even know if I've washed it. I was looking at some of this. And then this is cotton to also compare. The white one is cotton that was done by cashmere people, and this is the woman who spun it. And so you can see that it has some similarities, cotton, and then it has other similarities to the yak. I have, oh, here's some other little small samples. This is a little small skein that I made just to try it out. This one was spun on an electric eel wheel nano, and this one was spun on a Tockley, and a Tockley is a type of spindle that goes really, really fast, which you need a lot of twist in order to get the cotton to hold together. A lot of the like inconsistencies in here will just be character in the finished object, whatever is made with it, whether it is woven, knit, or crocheted. A lot of it will, like any unevenness, will really hardly be noticeable. But this one was really fine. So these are the same weight, but this one has twice as much yardage on the spindle as the one on the electric eel wheel. And I also want to make some sort of a top out of this. I have a ton of material left that I need to spin with this. So, you know, these two spins are not done. There's still a lot to spin on them. And, you know, I'll just kind of work on them slowly throughout the year whenever I'm up for it. This one is almost done. I have 1/2 of the 2-ply for it. But all of these have been 2-ply yarns. But anyway, this is a skein of yarn that I finished in June, and it is this is 180 grams here. I actually don't remember how big it is. I'll have to look that up, and I can put that in here. And I used 2 different companies of yarn for it. 316 Dye Studio, and that's the brighter colors, and then Hip Strings, which is one of my favorite of the fiber providers, Adore Jill. And she made this like tweedy blend with a gray base that the colors were very similar. And so I have this big squishy skein of yarn that I spun in June. I also in June spun this little skein of these were silk hankies that I had dyed, and I had the single sitting around for a long time, so this is 100% silk, and I just plied this up. I know I have more skeins, and I thought I was leaving them all sitting out, but they're not sitting here at the moment. And last month I also finished a sweater, which I will put the picture in here. The sweater was a pattern by a Ukrainian designer that I bought when Russia invaded Ukraine. Oh, this is almost all hip string stuff. There's some fleece in here, but I used what was called a 12-day spin, and actually, I still need to finish some of the steeking, but let's see if we can zoom out a little bit on that. That's as far out as I can go. I took the colors that were there and blended into a long gradient from purple to orange, and then I also blended up black fibers with some rainbow colored glittery fibers in there. This is, I believe this one was Firestar is the brand name of that type of glitter strands. And some of the colorful strands also had some glitter, but not all of them. And then I did a few adjustments to the pattern, because when I got to this point here, it wanted you to split for the sleeves and the body. And the problem was I only had one skein of the gradient yarn, and I wanted to keep the gradient together. So what I did was I added in steeks. This was knit from the top down. So I added in steeks, and a steek is a section that you knit. And you can see in here there's knits here. I would put in a purl stitch, and then this is, I think, the one sleeve that I kind of added extras, but 7 knit stitches, sorry, and then another purl stitch at the end of the steek, and I did that on both sides, the front and the back. And then when I had completed all of the sleeve length, I cut the steeks, and then I finished the sleeves in the round and sewed up the edges here. So the gradient from the neck to where it runs out in the body and the sleeves, it stays constant the whole time. The pattern is uninterrupted, and I have a full body sweater out of it. I do just need to sew in the ends and sew down the seams from the steeking a little bit. And then this last yarn is a real special yarn, and many years ago, like 10 years ago or something like that now, a alpaca was rescued from a minivan, and the local rescue had it sheared, and it had been living in the minivan, and we took the alpaca fleece from it, and I dyed it in the colors of a rainbow. And so I have all of the different colors. This is red that I hadn't washed from forever ago. And what I did was I blended it with a black a black Shetland fleece. And so I have 1 ply of Shetland by itself, and then 1 ply of the alpaca blended with the Shetland for the other ply. And I spun one of the skeins of orange, I think it was this one here. And what I did was, since I pulled this out and finished up this spin, what I did was started a sweater with it. So I've got the sweater going over in the corner. I have a lot of whips going on, but because I had this, it gave me about twice as much orange as I'd originally had, and I added it to stuff that I spun in 2016, and I decided to start a sweater with it. So this is the sum of what I spun during the Tour de Fleece this year, and I just wanted to add that to my July totals because I only colored 8 pages and that's not very many, but that was because I was spending a lot of my time watching the Tour de France and spinning yarn. So if you made it all the way through the video, then I thank you for watching, and happy crafting.